What's up, everyone? This is Final Fan TV, and you're watching Final Podcast VIII. We have another incredible guest party member for this one. You may know him as Kenshi or Goro from Mortal Kombat X, Johnny Ratface from Sleeping Dogs. Perhaps you recognize him as Agent McCallan from 24, or maybe he reminds you of the Chicago Bulls. His most recent work includes a starring role in the Netflix anime Seis Manos. And for all the Final fans, we know him as the voice of Tseng in Final Fantasy VII Remake, leader of the Turks, Vic Chao. How you doing, man?
Good. That is quite an intro. Thank you very much for all your research and this like trip down memory lane of all the random things that I've done in my life and career. So thank you for making me feel welcome and bringing back some good memories already.
Yeah, man.
Well,
absolutely.
The foundation of our show and everything we do is all about nostalgia. So we're glad we can bring some of that to you.
This is true.
Well, we have a lot to talk about with Vic, like his exciting career as a voice actor in video games, including his experience recording Tseng in Final Fantasy VII Remake. But first, it's time to dilly-dally, shilly-shally in the menu of Final Fan TV. Our party is equipped with the aspirations to spotlight Final Fantasy community members, as well as developers and voice actors. Next week, we have a much respected community member on the show, Audrey. She does the Ultimania translations. So much like a character gains new abilities, we have plans to start new shows like Let's Plays of the entire franchise, in-depth reviews of each game. I would like to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. And if you haven't yet, please consider doing so. We have crossed the 200 XP. That's 200 subscribers. Because of our wonderful Final fans like Vincent Graymore, who I want to give a special shout out to. He just adds comments to every single video, and they're very long and detailed and structured, but it's a joy to read every single word. So what's more important to me is that I know that Vincent has dedicated a lot of time to Final Fan TV, because some of our podcasts last for 2 hours. I know he watches every bit of it. And then his comments, I know it takes a lot of time to write those too. So thank you so much, Vincent, for staying in the comments there. We really appreciate that.
We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we also thank everyone who has commented on the show, liked it, subscribed, and for all the kind words and positivity. It's really encouraging, and it brings me hope that this channel will continue to grow and be an intricate part of the Final Fantasy community. So thank you. In the party tonight, we have Vinny McGovern. Yes. We have Osby Tomlin. And then, as the epic Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus, or Mega Reed versus Giant Vinny, it is Reed.
Vinny. Yeah, Octavinny. Yeah, I like that.
Octavinny.
Mega Reed versus Octavinny. Yeah.
Mega Reed.
Mega Reed versus Octavinny. All right, guys. So let's start from the beginning. Vic, I would like to ask you just what is the Vic Chao story?
The Vic Chao story. Oh, yeah. That's funny. A lot of it can be summed up in one word, which is overcompensation. So here's the thing is if I had not grown up really, really small and really, really bullied my whole life, I probably would have been satisfied with being who I was, which is quite honestly a smart, dorky, nerdy. But because I grew up and I was just bullied and stuff like that, it's just like, all I had to cling to when I was getting picked on all the time and feeling like an outcast and a misfit was Peter Parker, honestly. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, he was the smart nerd that just got bullied by Flash Thompson, and seeing Spider-Man and seeing what he could do gave me hope that, oh, maybe I could be something special. Maybe I could be something different, more than what I actually am. And so it's amazing to me that Spider-Man was such an influence on me, and like I wound up becoming a gymnast and doing the flips the way that Spider-Man would do and stuff, and and yeah, let's just face it. With actors in general, I don't want to say every single one of us, but a very large percentage of us, we're actors because we felt like people would love us just a little bit more if we were a little bit more than what we were, a little tougher or a little bit more sexy or a little bit cooler or something. We wanted to be something other than what we were. And lo and behold, that's what I do for a living. I pretend to be something else, somebody else.
Oh man, we love you for who you are, Vic. Already, man.
Already, man.
Yeah.
Already.
You do you, baby. Keep going.
Yeah,
It's
you do you.
brutally, I mean, it's brutally honest.
Yeah.
I would love to say that it came more of from a position of strength, where it's just like, oh, I have a story to tell, and I want to create, to share my art with the world, and of course there is that sort of thing, but I think at the heart of a lot of actors is just that insecurity, which drives us to be more than what we are. And I'm not even saying it's a bad thing, let's
Right,
face
yeah,
it.
yeah.
There's a lot of great things that come from uh fear or something like that, and it's okay as long as it drives us to action instead of forcing us to shrivel up.
I
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. I mean, I wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be too far fetched to say that, that's why we do a podcast. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I,
okay.
I think it's amazing that you say that, because like, when I was younger, I always wanted to be an actor. I wanted to relate to people, but like a large demographic of people. Like I wanted to be this person, be that person, be this person. Like my career always changed, and I was like, thinking like, if I'm an actor, I can be all of these things,
Yes.
but still be one person. And then I gave up on being an actor because, I'm sure you've gone through this too, but when you say you want to be an actor, a lot of people go, okay, but what's your reality dream? Like, what are you actually going to try and become? Like people always tell you, yeah, you could be an actor. You'll probably do a couple of commercials, but you should always have a backup plan. So I kind of just gave up on that. I settled for being a firefighter, and video games then turned into more of that dream, where it was like, you know, like I was bullied in school too, and I always wanted to be a little more than who I was. And video games, like more recent generation of video games and RPGs especially, like I'm able to be a war hero, a magician, a medieval knight. Like I can be all of these things. I can immerse myself in those lifestyles for a few hours at a time. And like video games to me allow you to be all of these things that you would have never been able to be
Absolutely.
otherwise. And
it's all about the idea of like escapism and the degree to which you can kind of get there. Obviously, Vic, you've kind of attained, you know, the higher echelons of that escapism. But yeah, it's all about like finding something you can immerse yourself and have your own story. Whether it's you're holding a control, behind a TV screen, holding a controller, or behind a camera, with a guy yelling at you, telling you you're not saying something right, or like a director. But yeah, it's actually interesting that even when we had John Eric Bentley on, a big thing in this whole community is a lot of the people who are kind of come together and form this community all have something in common. That's difficulty in our childhoods, you know, nerdy, picked on, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's kind of awesome that kind of brings everyone together and forms this community where everyone's so accepting and everything, and everyone's just kind of like excited for everyone else. Like we see, we see the things that you do, and we're just like, oh, and I'm sure it'll come up like Grey's Anatomy, just
That's
the
right.
fact that you're in the fact that you're in that, it's just everyone's just so excited for one another. I think it's really a positive thing for everyone.
And that's really interesting that you mentioned that about John Eric Bentley, because I love that guy. Like we became friends like decades ago, from an acting class that we took together, and
Oh,
he's just a great guy. And the funny thing is, if I were to guess at somebody who had a great childhood and didn't feel insecure or anything like that, I would have guessed John Eric Bentley, because the guy is so kind. He's also huge. I don't know if you guys were able to tell
Yeah.
and he played football. He played football in college, didn't he? I can't quite remember.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he was a
Yes,
football
he
player
did.
in college. So if I would have thought that anybody had like just like was the cool kid all through life and stuff, I would have thought it was John Eric Bentley. So good for him for being vulnerable and sharing what he went through with you guys. And I don't know, maybe that's what makes him such a kind person, because he's just a good guy, man. If I was as tall and as good looking as him, I'd be a stuck up snob to everybody. But he's a great guy, so.
Hey, well, don't go too far saying wishing you were good looking like John Eric Bentley, because if you even Google yourself, the first like 10 of the first 20 pictures of you shirtless and karate in martial arts poses. So I don't think you're hurting too bad. But yeah, we had John on, and he voices Barret, and he's this big guy, and we're expecting just talk about like, oh man, this badass cool stuff, and then we ended up talking about like racial inequality,
real stuff.
systemic topics, empathy and all that stuff. Like it was just like a really like humanizing conversation, and I feel like we got to see, and like anyone who watches it gets to see like a whole other side of him that you would kind of never expect. And it's awesome that like the very first thing that you talk about when we brought you on is your childhood and compensation, trying to find that like self-fulfillment through acting. So it's like it's really powerful. I think I think we all really appreciate it.
We do appreciate you. We appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to that podcast. It hasn't dropped, right? I was looking for it, but
yeah, it's Final Podcast VIII. It's broken up into 2 parts. So the first part is like Reed was saying, it's very like real conversation. We try to do rapid fire, but I'm sure you, as you know, John, he doesn't. His questions had to be
rapid fire to slow burn.
He's like, now wait a second though. Wait a second. I give that some thought. I can't just answer that. So yeah, the first one was real questions. It was fun. The second part though, we do more of like just we did Mad Libs with them. It was just more of a fun time, whereas the first one was a real talk, and it was a really good time to have him on. It's Final Podcast VIII.
Okay, we know what it might have been was, I think I checked your YouTube page. It's the video wasn't up on the YouTube page right now, is it? It is.
It should be. It should be.
Oh,
yes,
okay. Well, then maybe I don't know how to use the internet. I don't know. I'll double check. But thank you.
I'll send you a link.
I'll definitely have to check out a little bit more of John Bentley.
Yeah, absolutely, really man. Cool. Yeah, it was a really awesome podcast. My only issue was that my mic was way too loud. Never. And I was like,
struggle is real.
It hurt when I was listening to it. I was like, oh no, my mic is so loud. We have so many questions to ask you, Vic, but especially about your fascinating career, man. You have so much, but this is a Final Fantasy podcast. So first, we will get to those later. I promise you, we're going to definitely get to those. But first, let's dive into your role as Tseng in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm sure there's a lot of viewers out there that want to hear it. So we got some questions for you. Obviously, we can't get into future installments, so don't expect anything like that. But can you describe the moment that you found out that you were going to be part of Final Fantasy VII Remake? And then I guess another question on that, to stack on top of that, were you aware of the franchise, like its popularity, especially Final Fantasy VII in particular, being one of the most iconic video games of all time, getting a remake?
Ravenous fan bases.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first question to address. I was certainly aware of Final Fantasy. I mean, you always hear about it throughout. And I had heard that there were 2 that were considered to be the best. 7 and was it 9? I can't remember what the other one was. But basically, I had heard rumblings that two of those were considered to be the best of the entire franchise. So I definitely had known of it. I'd never played it before. I love video games, but I also have a very obsessive personality. So at a certain point, I just had to stop, because I can't get anything done when I'm actually playing one of these things. So I like, you guys are able to stop when you need to, when you need to like
I'm not.
No,
At
we
some
should,
point.
but we don't.
Okay, all right, okay.
At some point,
It was
I have to force myself to stop.
what Gideon Emery posted something on Twitter the other day, and he said, "Oh, kids are asleep now. I can watch adult TV, get a drink, and do all these things." And I responded to it, and I was like, "Yeah, when my kids go to sleep, I should be sleeping, but I stay up and I play video games and have my me time, I guess, playing video games, and then I
Same.
wake up in the morning regretting that I should have gotten sleep, but I don't know when to stop, or I
Yeah.
do know when to stop, I just don't."
Yeah, see, with my work schedule, I work 7 days straight, and then I'm off for 7 days straight. So like those 7 days off,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, those 7 days off. Like was yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I downloaded a game. It's like a 1 GB game on my Xbox called Slime Rancher, and I did
that
not
sounds-
expect. Like it's just like this very simple game where you go out into the wild, you suck up these like wild slimes into your vacuum, and then you create a corral and you shoot them into the corral and you just kind of take care of them. I think I played it for 8 hours straight, and I was just like,
Oh,
it's like, oh man, I forget to eat. I forget to like breathe.
Right.
I need like something to tell me to breathe. I played Final Fantasy VII for 72 hours straight one time, not for like a podcast or anything, just because I'm a masochist. Like I just, play video games and I don't have that off switch.
And like, yeah, I miss those days. I mean, it'll be a while. Like, I think my kids will have to graduate. The day my kids graduate from college, I think I'm just gonna sit down in front of, the PlayStation 10 or whatever, whatever
Yeah.
at that point, and just play nonstop. But I miss those days because they were so fun, and I can remember, like pausing and like sprinting to the restroom to pee as fast as you can, just so you can get back to the game as fast as you can, and then like grabbing anything out of the refrigerator or the pantry just so you can shovel it into, just so you can grab it and bring it in back in front of the TV so you can keep on playing and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I used to eat raw cheese just because it was quick. I would just open up a thing of cheese and just eat it. And be
All right, Charlie. I'm always sunny.
is it bad that I still do that right now?
I mean, I
Just
still
taking a hunk of cheese is it's just an awesome mouth-filling experience,
A
I eat
block of
balls
cheddar
of-
is one serving.
I eat balls of mozzarella like it's an apple.
Oh my god.
So let me ask you this, Vic. Have you yourself or watching anyone else seen or experienced a playthrough of 7 Remake?
I've seen clips of it, but I haven't spent as nearly as much time watching it as I would love to. I got 2 kids right now, and
Right. Yeah.
and
you're crazy.
during a pandemic, it's been a little crazy.
So
right.
So adding off of that, have you? I'm assuming when you say you've seen clips, I assume based on what you've said about your personality, I'm guessing that you've probably gone through all of your scenes and kind of nitpicked and like how many times have you gone through and just said like listen to your own voice? Like when someone hears himself on an answering machine, they're just like, oh boy. Like how many times did you watch it like through your scenes and go like, oh, you should have like reached a slightly higher note or
It's funny. I definitely do that, whether it's on camera stuff or voiceovers work. I definitely find myself, like internally cringing or going, but you want to know the truth? I do a lot less of that. I did a lot less of that watching song scenes from Final Fantasy VII Remake. And it's not because of my brilliance. It's because of just the cinematic brilliance of the direction and the animation.
uh-huh.
Like honestly, just the camera shots and everything. Like I actually find myself being so engaged in these cutscenes that I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And I forget to self-loathe because I didn't, because my voice isn't doing exactly what I wanted to do. But besides that, of course, I had very good direction, which I think worked very well for Song's character as well as the style of animation. I mean, he's not a really perky guy or anything like that. He's serious and to the point and stuff. And so I feel like the direction that they gave me was very appropriate and fitting with the scene. and also, yeah, like I said, just watching the animation. I mean, like, when he's in the helicopter and there's just a close up of his mouth, and it's just like there's just compelling shots throughout that make me just enjoy it rather than being in my head when I watch those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, you did a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's really
And
great.
I said this
Yes.
to Bentley a couple weeks ago when he was on the show, and the same goes for you. We grew up with this game. I was 7 years old when this game came out, and now I'm 30, so it's been a part of my life for a very very long time, and it's engraved or ingrained in my mind. And so when I see Sung, or if I see him talking in '97, obviously it's just text boxes, and I gave him my own voice, obviously, back in the day. But now that you have applied your voice to Sung, like you have become Sung like in my mind. So I've known you since '97 as like now you are Sung like permanently in my mind. So like that is something that's really cool. I told Bentley about that too, and now I will never be able to hear Sung in a different voice. You know what I mean? Like it's like you are Sung. So
Right.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I-
so now,
I,
so
I
now we.
feel I feel very flattered that apparently I've been haunting your life since '97.
Yeah,
Oh
we've
no,
been-
no, gracing.
We've been friends for
Very
23 years,
graceful.
and I would very much like a PS5 for Christmas if you can. Come on, buddy.
You got to shoot your shot, man.
I'll see what I
right.
can do.
Give it a try.
No,
Um,
it's actually pretty cool. Like you mentioned that though, because that's a very real thing. We were just talking. I actually just went through my old Final Fantasy VII again and started playing through it. And I actually just got through Wall Market, which is a part in the original where the Turks come in. So it's the same kind of thing now, where it's like when you can hear the text, like
Mhm.
in John's. Also, I like how you called him Bentley. Like we're on a last name basis.
Oh, yo,
Like,
JB.
like yeah, like walking
JB.
into, walking to a Harris Teeter, so like, yo Bentley, like,
Yo,
going up,
Bentley.
what up, my Koopa? Like,
What
I-
up, my
I-
Koopa?
See, I'd always thought of him as being John Bentley. So honestly, like when I saw that there was a John Eric Bentley playing Barret, I was like, oh, who's that? Who's that guy? I have no idea who that is. And then it wasn't until like much later I was like, oh wait, that's John Bentley. So I don't know why the middle name threw me, and it never bothered like to actually Google John Eric Bentley to realize, oh, that's that great guy from Commercial Class. So.
Yeah, that's awesome that
actually-
you guys
yeah.
knew each other that and then you come full circle and you get to work on Final Fantasy VII remake together. That's
a
really cool.
generational project.
He's genuinely a really great guy, and if he was a jerk, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't do that anyway. It's really easy for me to say the truth, which is he's a great guy.
So
not-
with the level
He
of
spoke-
excitement that you showed finding out that he was playing Barret in the game, I can only imagine how excited you were.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because I found out that I was going to be part of Final Fantasy about 30 seconds before I entered into the voiceover booth to record.
Wow.
So,
What?
Oh, by the way, it's just
Yeah,
Final
exactly.
Fantasy. Don't worry about it.
Exactly, so I'm sure you guys know they give you a code name, and they don't they just refer to it by the code name the whole time. So I'm just like, oh, okay, all right, great, I'll I booked this job, whatever it is. So I show up there. It was actually an evening session, I think I recall, and I'm just hanging out there, got there a little early, and just got myself settled, and they're like, oh yeah, so this is Final Fantasy. And I was like, oh, my jaw just dropped. And yeah, it was amazing to me that I was suddenly going to be part of this franchise, and I had no idea. So that was a very nice surprise. It was like I suddenly had to like get myself back together again, to actually record, because otherwise I'd be like, I'm in Final Fantasy, I'm in Final Fantasy, I'm in Final Fantasy, But
Imagine Sung sounding like that.
Hey, Cloud! That's not how I pictured him.
Actually, I actually didn't know like how it works, and I think it's something I would like to explore a little bit further. Because you said you know how it works, you get a code name and everything, but I'm actually really curious because one of the things about Sung is, leader of the Turks, loyal to Shinra. And, it's his job to carry out commands without question. But he does have a soft spot, even though he's very loyal and strictly business and cold on the exterior. But he does have a soft spot, especially for Aerith, who he's watched over since she was a child. And I think you did just a great job. Even Sung doesn't have that many lines, but when you showed up on screen, it was you could see both of those personalities. You did a great job of that dual personality of like, you have to be strong on the outside and follow orders like a loyal doggy.
Like
to quote Barret.
Subtext.
But
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
is what you're getting at.
So yeah, so you had to do that, and I thought you did a really great job of just, conveying both of those personalities. And I was wondering if you were given like a, I don't know, like a dossier of who Sung is, like a here's a document of his background history to get into the mind of this character that you're about to do, or if you're just given like a personification diagram of just like, hey, he's X percentage introvert and so on. I'm kind of wondering how that process works as a voice actor. Are you, obviously you can't share character detail, but I am curious if you can explain, like, do you get some kind of background information on them?
That's a really good question. And in fact, I remember struggling through the first part of the voiceover session because I couldn't determine if he was a good guy or a bad guy. And yes, we are given like a brief description of him, and they definitely gave me a verbal description of him, and they talked about him a little bit and stuff. And I remember seeing the lines and stuff, but I was having trouble because when he's a bad guy, I can make it. If somebody's a bad guy, I can be a bad guy, or if he's a good guy, I can try to make him a good guy. But in the case of Song, I was just having trouble because some of the lines implied a bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
and then some of the lines definitely clearly were not, especially when directed towards Aerith. There was definitely a caring and a feeling to him. And so I was having trouble playing whether I should play him bad guy or a good guy and stuff. And finally I was just like, hey, I'm having trouble. Is he a bad guy or is he a good guy or is he ambiguous? And they're like, ambiguous. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is starting to make sense. Um this makes sense now. And because yes, he does carry out the orders. He is willing to go and drop plates on oh wait, should I not say that?
Yeah, no,
No, you're
no
fine.
big,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
big
yeah.
deal.
You're good,
Just,
you're good.
just drop it.
Okay,
We had a yeah, you're fine.
Drop it like
Spoiler.
like
We
a
can
plate.
spoiler talk the entire game. It doesn't matter.
okay, well, I mean, yes, so he's willing to do whatever it takes, but it's not out of, but yeah, thinking about it made me realize that it's not out of a desire to harm people or anything like that. It's simply, this is what needs to be done. And like this, yeah, this is what needs to be done. In fact, one of the cutscenes, he says something like, we have spared others the anguish of having to make this decision or something like that. And he's just like,
Yeah.
this just needs to be done. And so that allowed me to actually realize, his ambiguous nature, and he's not a robot. He does do what needs to be done, but he still does have caring, especially for Aerith, from his history with her. Excuse me. And so that is what we worked very hard with, both with the directors and as well as with the takes that I did, was to try and find that middle ground where he is willing to do whatever it takes, but he's still a human being who does have feelings for the people that are close to him.
I think the beginning, especially in Seven Remake, it's just the first chapter in Midgar. I think like the main party and the Turks kind of represent the two opposite sides of the gray spectrum, where it's not it's not black or white, it's not good or evil. Whereas the protagonists, I mean, they're effectively eco-terrorists, you know, and people are getting hurt as a result, but they're trying to save the planet overall, which later on in the story becomes a much bigger factor. Whereas the Turks are, they have like their own thoughts, and they're not necessarily evil. They're just kind of they don't know the whole truth, and as that unfolds later on, things change. But they're not good or evil. They're just kind of following orders, you know, good soldiers. They're effectively what Cloud was supposed to be.
That's why in the original game, you know, the Turks and the party eventually end up collaborating in certain sections
on a mixtape. No,
yeah, like, you know, like collaborating
working together for sure.
Hottest album of 2020.
Giant Reed versus Mega.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Octavini. Yeah, that's my new album cover.
Mega Reed.
When I drop my next EP, it's gonna be my cover. It's honestly so we got in here, me and Danny got in here a couple minutes early, and so when we do all our Final Fantasy talks, we started this inside joke from when we very first started that all my pictures are just going to be like me in like precarious situations. So in one, I'm like falling off a cliff, and one, I'm about to get eaten by a shark, because I'm obsessed with sharks, and we'll touch on that later.
You have become the shark. It's a story.
Yeah. Well, no, he just ate me. I'm just sticking my head out. Like, I'm saying, what up, y'all? So for John, I had it changed where there's obviously a very iconic scene in Final Fantasy featuring Sephiroth and Aerith. I'm sure you're probably aware of that later on. So we took that scene and just put my face over Aerith's. And then for you, because I was fangirl, like me and Vinny, by the way, are huge like sci-fi Asylum, like the monster movies. We're huge fans of that, and we'll get to that. But like for you specifically, I was like, Danny, I had this great idea for him. You have to do it. So like literally like 5 minutes before you got on, Danny's like, he's sweating bullets at his computer. It's like, oh, I have to make this work. And he shared it, and I was crying so hard. I was laughing.
Just moments before you hopped on us.
Yeah,
over this photo.
This is a true work of passion under a deadline.
That is awesome, and like, yeah, the artistic rendering is incredible. I mean, you blended the edges. Like, I could really tell that this was the original box cover right here.
It's honestly it's a B profile picture for a B movie. Actually,
Reed. Sorry, go ahead,
Danny.
No. I was just gonna say, you have a question in the doc, and I don't want you to skip over it.
I was actually you're reading my mind. Oh God, I'll never do that again. I was just gonna get to that actually. So, speaking of this kind of thing, when we were talking to John, I had a question kind of like about voice acting, how you're not on camera, you know, so you can kind of like do whatever you need. You can warp your face, your your eyes, whatever you have to do to like kind of capture whatever tone or whatever exact sound voice you want to make, you know, where you're not worried about how you look. So you can just goof off, make your face as abstract as you want to make things sound right. So it's like, I thought it was funny that, you know, in a movie, like an Asylum movie, like, you know, like Mega Shark, where it's like you're on camera, but they kind of want you to do that anyway. Like how much different is like acting on something like that versus like acting on like Grey's Anatomy, where you have to like be stoic and you have to like deliver your lines very like deliberately.
That's a good point. I think, you know, with Mega Shark. By the way, a little bit of trivia with just a little thing. I've got little Mega Shark tidbits that I think I'd like to share. But first of all, one of the things that they do is they skimp on some things, because, you know, Asylum just creates, you know, they just crank out all these
Right.
and stuff, but they do not skimp on the box covers, because, you know, back in the days of the, you know, the DVD store and the video cassette store, you know, it's like you would pick things based on the box covers. So their box covers are awesome looking. Like even what you you've got right there, like, you know, they're engaged in a fierce battle. So they always make sure their box covers look fantastic to draw in the casual browser. But going back to that, you know, if you try too hard to make it campy, then I think it comes out kind of obvious. So we largely weren't trying to go campy, because it will come out, it will play out in like the ridiculousness of the situations anyway.
Right.
So largely we played it just, as, we played it reasonably straight with, direction from the director, Jack Perez, who's a phenomenally talented director. And there was just a lot of tributes that he threw into, to old Japanese Godzilla movies and stuff
Yep.
like that. But yeah, so we tried to play it reasonably straight, and then just let the ridiculousness of the situation do its magic.
I think the composure and stuff of characters in like some of these, like there's a megalodon like attacking like a navy ship, and he's just like, what are our options? He's like just stoic and straight faced. It's incredible.
And then one thing about Mega Shark is there's a gentleman named Mike who's a great guy who's part of the crew. I actually had forgotten, was he a production manager? I can't quite remember, but like, he's very memorable in that show because he's the passenger on the plane who's just like, oh, I'm getting married I'm getting married next week, and then he looks out the window and he's like, holy crap, because the mega shark goes and knocks
Yep.
knocks his plane out of the sky. Oh, I hope he didn't spoil spoil it too much. I hope that's like on the level of Darth Vader's reveal or something. But
absolutely.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, we have a ravenous Mega Shark fan base. It's like we haven't got around to it yet.
No.
We're going in order.
but so yeah, Mike is in that movie constantly. Like whether it's this guy holding a machine gun, wearing sunglasses, or a guy like hopping down the steps, like whenever they just needed a warm body to fill something, Mike's there. So if you want to play a good drinking game, you just go for Spot Mike in that.
Nice.
Yeah, that's actually funny.
It sounds like a great time.
Yeah.
It's good. Like, yeah, nobody had pretenses that we were making, grand high art or anything.
Yeah.
But
It's fun.
yeah, we all just had a great time, and as as an Asian male, like it was a huge point of pride that I get to play the love interest to Deborah Gibson. I was just like, holy cow, I get to make out with like the woman that I had a crush on in high school and stuff like that. So
I wish we could play that clip too. It's you two sitting in the ship like across the table. It's like one of the kissing scenes. It's so funny. So actually feeding off that, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Godzilla. I was a huge Godzilla fan. So it's like, even looking back at like a 1950s for Godzilla, it's the effects the way they were then. If you look at it now, it hasn't aged the most gloriously, and I think that the way that like Asylum and these certain movies go, where it's kind of like trying to like take it back to before effects were the way that they were, they're trying to like pay homage to it. But were you like a Godzilla fan or like a kaiju fan? Is that how you got interested in that project? Or
I mean, yeah, when you're a kid, what kid doesn't love Godzilla?
Good question.
Or King Kong. I mean, like,
Mhm.
and like, so then I wasn't allowed to watch a whole bunch of TV, but if there was a chance to watch Godzilla, like, on the like the Saturday morning feature or something like that, I would always try to catch it, and I was just fascinated by all the different monster movies that would come out of Japan, whether it was Godzilla, um, King Kong, Mothra like fascinated me. Like a freaking butterfly is menacing Tokyo. Like that was so cool, as well as like like the multi-tentacled whatever. Yeah, I love those things. And I remember being so excited to get to watch Godzilla versus King Kong,
Mm-hmm.
and like it kind of blew my mind because apparently in the United States, King Kong wins, because that's the version I saw where they like fall into the sea, and then like you just see like dead calm ocean, and then you see King Kong slowly
Yep.
emerging and swimming his way back, and then learning that in Tokyo, in Japan, Godzilla wins, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, and I remember trying to find trying to see that one, but of course that was before, you know, the internet and stuff like that, so I never got to see that. But now I want to see it.
Yeah.
I think after this podcast, people came for Sung, and then they're gonna leave. They're gonna leave wanting to see the Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus.
I cannot recommend them enough. The whole series, the Mecha Croc, the what's the two-headed, or there's one with it's like a snake. It's like Piranha.
It's gotta be Hydra. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh my god, they're so great.
Vic,
I love them.
Can you tell us about the audition? I know you briefly touched on it, but like you said that you found out like 30 seconds before you did the recording for it. Can you like go into detail about that a little bit more? That is really interesting. That you just kind of was it that your agent, or you just found out about a job opening at Square Enix and you showed up and were like, okay, great, yeah, I can't wait to voice a character, and then you're just like, oh, you know, Final Fantasy.
The audition, you're saying?
Yes, the audition itself, and like how you found the voice of Sung and stuff like that.
So the audition, they, you know, my agent emails me the sides to it, and I recorded it home and I just email it in. What was different about these sides were that they give you the Japanese recorded audio, and we're told to sort of to try and replicate the feel of the original Japanese delivery, which is a really interesting challenge because, you know, they're two completely different languages, but somehow, you know, while you're not trying to parrot the Japanese, you know, there's definitely a feel of it, you know, and I was just listening to the character, the lines that they sent me over and over again, just trying to get his voice, trying to get the feel of his voice, as well as the inflections, you know, and so trying to find that balance between, you know, delivering it in a way that makes sense to me in English while also respecting what the original Japanese was. And in fact, that process was continued during the actual recording process because we're recording in the United States, of course, but they've got a feed into Japan, who are like, bless them. I think they were up at like, you know, 3 a.m. to do that, and so we would record, and then they would discuss it in Japanese and make sure that they felt comfortable with what was going on. So it was an interesting balancing act. It's not something that I've encountered too often before, but it worked. But it worked, and yeah, it was an interesting challenge trying to balance the English version with the Japanese version. And I've listened to some of the Japanese version, and that guy's really good too. That guy's really good.
That's awesome. That's a really cool tidbit there. I didn't know about like having to like basically feed it over to Japan for them to take a listen to it, and then
Right.
oh wow, that's really cool.
You can sort of hear them discussing it in Japanese, and you're like, is that good? Is that good?
He smiled. All right, Vinny, you have a question on this document, man. I want you to make sure you get to it.
Which one are you talking about? We kind of skipped around a lot.
Follows after the audition. You said, what drew you to?
Oh yeah, so, like so you auditioned for this role. What drew you to Sung, or did you didn't know it was Sung when you auditioned, right?
Correct.
So okay, so I guess that
Yeah, never mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that kind of answered my question earlier.
Yeah, that does.
But I mean, your reaction was great when you told us about how like you found out it was Final Fantasy, and I mean this is a video game franchise that has, I mean, stood the test of time. I believe it released in Japan in what, 86, 87? The first Final Fantasy came out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sounds right, yeah.
it's been decades, and it's one of the longest running video game franchises, and now, you know, I don't see this ending anytime soon. So, you know, you're now part of this franchise's history, and this is going to carry on until, you know, basically video games are just, we, you know, plug into the back of our heads and go to sleep, and you know, like, but yeah, so like how's it feel knowing that like you're a part of one of the longest running and one of the most popular video game franchises in history.
Oh my gosh, it genuinely blows me away. I I can remember I can remember, seeing on TV again before the internet and everything, like, like just commercials for Final Fantasy and like being like, oh my gosh, this is a video game. You can see the individual strands of hair on these characters and stuff like that, and being totally blown away. Um, so yeah, it's a pretty incredible feeling to be part of this. I would say from a video game standpoint, the two video games that I'm just blown away to be part of are Final Fantasy VII Remake and Mortal Kombat. And
Yeah.
those Mortal Kombat 10, yeah, those two, I'm just like, I can't believe I'm part of this, Um, and I look forward to the day when someday I can play these. I can have the time to play these, and when my kids are old enough that I can play it with them, and I can fight my son in Mortal Kombat and shove his head into his chest cavity and pull open his chest cavity just to punch his face that has been lodged inside his chest cavity. These
As
are
you turn and say, "I love you, son."
I love you, son. This is for keeping me up late at night.
Oh yeah, he's a little young for that level of violence just yet,
yeah.
but yeah, it'll be fun playing these someday. One thing that I recorded like a long time ago was like Connect Disneyland Adventures. And so he's old enough for that. So I actually have a copy of that. So I have to break that out with him and play
Nice.
someday.
Yeah. I play that with my son too.
Really?
Yeah, I love that.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
it's really
well,
cool.
So yeah, I'm one of the like the parent characters that you encounter through the park and stuff like that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Nice.
Awesome. I'll have to keep an ear out for your voice. That's awesome.
So Final
go ahead,
Fantasy
Oscar.
VII is very important to so many members of the fan base, and it inspires so many of us. I mean, hell, it inspired this podcast. You mentioned earlier in the podcast that a big inspiration for yourself was Spider-Man and Peter Parker. So I have to ask, do you have a costume, a Spider-Man costume? Please tell me. There's got to be one in the wardrobe.
I do not have a Spider-Man costume. I certainly have Spider-Man t-shirts, and my son has multiple Spider-Man outfits. And
So, I'm sorry. Go on.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if we're working on that, also the fact that we came to talk about Final Fantasy and we're talking about asylum movies, and now we can talk about comic books, which, I mean, this is just fantastic. What, in your opinion, is the best Spider-Man film?
Oh,
It's a hotly debated topic.
that's a really good question.
We're
You know-
gonna have to change the name of this episode to like Nerdgasm or something.
Honestly, I'm going to actually say the best Spider-Man ever. And technically it wasn't a movie, but I'm gonna say the thing that I have the soft spot in my heart for were the Spider-Man sketches in Electric Company. Again, I'm old as dirt. Okay, so back before the internet, does Electric Company, like, do you guys know Electric Company?
I just know the Shinra Electric Company.
Okay. Basically, growing up, there were 3 shows on PBS that would come in a row for me. There was Sesame Street, which was a little boring. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which was very boring to me. Like honestly, I didn't appreciate him as an adult, and I mean as a kid, and now as an adult, I'm just blown up away by how amazing Mr. Rogers is.
Right. You want your kids to watch them, right?
Oh yeah, no. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, like kind of like the animated spinoff, is a staple in our home. But then the third one in that roster is the Electric Company, which is kind of just like a higher level educational program. But periodically they would have a sketch. They would have a Spider-Man sketch.
Uh-huh.
It was freaking awesome. If you look up Electric Company Spider-Man, I've shown every single one to my kids, and like, and I'm sorry, I know I'm not answering your question, but this is still my favorite Spider-Man.
This
Like,
this is perfect.
yeah. So he, like when it would come time for him to say something, he wouldn't speak. He'd go, through the mask, and then the word bubble would appear over his head that said, "Mr. Freeze, you're not gonna get away with this,"
Yeah.
and
Nice.
so huge and campy, and when you're a kid, it doesn't look campy. It looks like it's genuine superhero stuff, And my favorite was that he would go and he would spin the web. So trying to position my hand in there in front of the camera, and so he would press that, and then all of a sudden, there'd be this animation of this like black oh no, actually this white web that would appear, and then suddenly then the next scene would be the bad guy in this black
Yep.
and it was just awesome. So, in my opinion, the greatest movie will be a compilation of every single one of those Spider-Man sketches. Electric Company.
Nice.
All
A
right.
binge
Electric
watch marathon.
PBS, you hearing us? Where's this at?
I'm definitely gonna check that out after this. I'm a pretty big Spider-Man fan.
I know what he's talking about. I just didn't realize that it was like Electric Company PBS, but I know
No
they're
idea.
like the shorts, and it was like
And they
That's
were
awesome.
live action. Of course, I love the cartoon, the original one, Spider-Man does
Mhm.
Spider-Man. But these were live action, so it just blew me away.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It's funny that we were talking about like ambiguity earlier with like Sung being like, is he good or is he bad? And you're saying that Spider-Man's your favorite, because Venom is actually my favorite. And
Uh,
I like how Venom's not a good guy or a bad guy. He just does what he thinks is right, whether it's like eating a bad person, which is like, I guess, eating people in general is just like widely
I guess
accepted as
that's not
bad.
good.
But like,
Ambiguously eating people, the name of my next metal band.
but I really like Venom. He's my favorite, not because he's like edgy or anything. I liked him before he was edgy, and edgy was cool. But but yeah,
What an edgy thing to say. Man, I'm such a hipster. I eat my soup before it's cool.
But yeah, no, Venom's my favorite, and it's, I think, because of the ambiguity. The he does what he feels is right, and that's not always the right thing, but I respect that. He stands behind his morals, and he just like he you know eats a person from time to time. So you gotta just kinda,
Hey, man, yeah, sometimes
you
you
know,
eat somebody, all right?
It's every now and then.
Nobody's perfect. You just eat a
Right.
person.
Just eat a person. What an excellent segue into the next
Everybody.
question.
Cannibalism. Like,
This is an excellent segue into the next question. Can you share some of your favorite moments of Sung?
Of songs.
with smooth transition.
Sung the cannibal.
Well, one of my favorite moments of just being part of Final Fantasy, I actually meant to mention this before, was just discovering just how amazing the fans are. I mean, the fans of Final Fantasy are so enthusiastic and they're so appreciative, and it's it's amazing to just feel their enthusiasm, to be part of that is so cool. And I love all the people who have reached out to me over Twitter or other social media, and just to say, thank you, or to compliment me, and or give me their observations on the character. It's really gratifying, and that's one of my favorite parts of being part of Final Fantasy. um as far as the favorite scenes of Song, I do really love I love backstory things. I love origins, or this character when he was younger, and stuff like that. So I do love that flashback scene where Song is speaking with Aerith, and trying to convince him to come with him over to Shinra's company. And yeah, I remember, getting, previously we'd recorded a lot of Song's lines, and he's very straightforward. He's just, this is what needs to be done. And then with Aerith, he takes on just, there's a quality to his voice where he's genuinely excited and he's explaining to her, you're one of the ancients. And that was very gratifying to me, to get to feel Song's warm side and the feelings that he has for Aerith. So I really, really enjoyed that scene.
That's awesome. It's even better that you mentioned that scene in particular, because that is the scene we will be massacring in Mad Libs tonight.
Spoiler alert.
So when we get to that, yeah, you'll be reading that particular I guess it's not necessarily a monologue, but yeah, that particular line of describing the ancients to Amira and Aerith. Yeah, so that's gonna be fun.
Excellent.
Actually, I wanted to touch on this really quick because we kind of bounced around it a few times. So you mentioned that you didn't know it was Final Fantasy VII until kind of the last second. I was curious what the working title that they gave you for it was.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say, so just to be on
copy.
the safe side, it's kind of weird because the project has been released, but just in case the code name
Stays the same for future
Oh,
installments.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
copy.
um so yes, it was not it was not oysters. Just
It wasn't Mega Shark.
It wasn't Mega Shark.
Mega Reed
Mega Shark
versus
versus
Octavity.
it was not
Spiky Head.
new or anything like that. But yeah, so sorry, just in case.
Oh, that's fair.
No, yeah, I completely
fair.
understand. So we were talking about the FF community and how just amazing they are, and just a shout out to us in particular. We're a brand new Final Fantasy podcast, and when we jumped on Twitter, and I was just like, "Hey, check out our new podcast." There's the community is so welcoming, and even other podcasts, other Final Fantasy podcasts, were reaching out and congratulating us, and just best of luck and stuff like that. It's
Good,
really
good.
awesome. And also another thing that I want to touch on before I get to the question is when we posted videos on YouTube, we have only gotten 2 thumbs down, and that's just insane. Like on every video that we've posted, only 2 thumbs down, and that's insane for being on YouTube.
They
It
missed
was
the like button. They just missed the like button. That was
They
it.
accidentally missed the yeah. So that's a really amazing thing. So the FF community is great. Do you have a
They really are.
memory that stayed with you, whether it be at a Square Enix event, whether it be at like a KupoCon if you've ever been to one, or just interview in particular? Do you have a memory that has stayed with you from the community?
First of all, I just you touched on something that I wanted to mention, which is the voiceover community in general is just really nice, you know. And it's not to say that the live action world isn't nice, because there's a ton of nice people as well, but I don't know what it is about voiceover and animation and video games, like that community, not just the actors, but the fans, as well as the directors, the staff, all the people who work on it. There's something about them that is more, that I found to be very grounded and very um, unpretentious, just very friendly and welcoming in all throughout all of the segments, and it's, I don't know what it is about voiceover and animation and video games that draws those people or brings that element out to them, but yeah, the voiceover world is nice, aren't they?
Yeah, we've definitely discovered that as well. Like with you being on the show, dedicating a big chunk of your Saturday just to be on here to chat with us is just really I always say that the greatest gift somebody can give us is their time. So
You are the best, sir. We appreciate it.
yeah, for the fact that you're dedicating a good chunk of your Saturday to be with us is just really great. And Bentley, JB, Johnny B, he came on the show. That was awesome too. Just dedicating the chunk of your weekend to be on the show, and voice acting community has just been great. So yeah, I agree.
But to answer your question, I think what I just feel very touched by is just like the personal messages, the personal tweets that get sent to me. Just just saying, hey, I really like how you voiced him. I really, you really brought him to life. Like those, they're really gratifying because if if I'm on a TV show, hopefully people like it, but I don't think people reach out to the same degree that I've encountered with Final Fantasy. And so yes, when people reach out to me on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and they just tell me that they appreciate my work, it feels great. It feels
Yeah.
great.
Well, to be fair to them and you, you do have a voice like butter, and if you ever record a CD of lullabies, I'll take a copy.
Please let us know.
It's funny because that's one of those things where it's like, I can't take any credit for that. I mean, of course, I practiced and I learned how to use my voice, but honestly, I was just blessed to have my dad's voice, and it in some ways it almost makes me feel guilty because it's like, if somebody says, oh, you're a good gymnast or a good martial artist, whatever, it's like I know I've worked hard to achieve that level, but I was honestly just born with what some people consider to be a good voice, and it's a huge blessing. So
We're gonna probably close out the Final Fantasy VII remake, if we are even still structured here. We've been bouncing around a lot, but so we close out the remake section of it. Vinny, you had a question that you wanted to ask, just a fun question here, and I'll share my screen so that way you can see the characters.
Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, let me bring this up here.
But
There they are. You see them, right? This is Elena. This is you. That's Sung, and then Rude and Reno. Rufus, Shinra in the middle. Now, Vinny, you want to ask your question, man?
yeah, so if you were to, go out to the bar on a Friday or Saturday night, which one of these Turks are you taking with you? Who are you gonna have a drink with?
Oh man,
Who are you sending on a mission? Sending away.
Yeah, I gotta say, Rufus. I like his moxie, and I feel like Rufus would be, and yeah, Rufus. We'll go with Rufus.
What a very
Right.
Sung thing to say.
Don't want to upset the boss.
If I could,
Good soldier.
if I could really choose, I would take Barret. Because
Oh, yeah.
like we walk into a bar, everybody's gonna clear out because there's a man with a machine gun for an arm coming in, and you're like, I wanna, give me some. Sorry, I can't do it. Nobody.
Funny. What's
No,
funny is
please try.
there's actually a scene. It's funny you mentioned that because there's a scene in the original Final Fantasy VII where Barret literally walks in a bar and says, "Get the hell out!" and starts firing off rounds from his hand, and everyone runs out of the bar.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious! I haven't seen that. I'm gonna have to look for that. But yeah, if I were to choose and I wasn't allowed to choose song, I would love to get to voice Barret, because man, that guy's freaking awesome. But of course,
Let's hear your Barret voice.
I oh, he does this thing where he's goes really gruff and growly, and I'm trying to. I'm sorry, I would another. Anyway, no.
Just say, ain't no getting off this train.
No getting off this train.
Ain't no getting off this train. We all.
Ain't no getting off this train.
There we go. Hey.
But yeah, nobody can do Barret quite like Barret. So
I think you have too much of a natural calm to your voice to really be able to like capture that gruffness.
I don't know, man. I've heard Goro.
Oh man.
Freaking throat rippers. So man.
Oh, what?
Man, you'd be great in a death metal band. We've talked about metal music a lot today, like album covers
We have.
and band names, and now that this is really a smorgasbord of nerdism.
This is a
pretty great.
nerdgasm. Just
Yeah.
It's not even about Final
The nerd
Fantasy
pit,
anymore.
Yeah, the nerd pit.
Spectacular, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, Vic. We
Yeah.
really enjoying this, man. So we're gonna go on to we want to talk about you, man. We want to talk about your career. We've touched on it a little bit throughout the show. But this is a fan question from @Vic Chao, and he says, how is it that you're a grown man and you just discovered last week that frozen bananas are like the tastiest thing ever?
Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. I have lost out on this for decades of my life. Like they're so freaking good. And the thing is, when you buy too many bananas and they're going bad, like my typical approach is make banana pancakes. And the banana pancakes are great, but oh my gosh, they're so good. It's like ice cream in a banana form once you freeze them. So it allows you to it allows you to not waste food. And yeah, like I remember, like at the amusement park they would sell frozen bananas and I would never get one because I'm like, why would I pay for something that I can get any time? But I've never actually eaten one until I think my wife suggested doing that for our son, and they're amazing. So yes, go out and freeze some bananas. They're great. And
This is a random thing to piggyback off of different texture and banana culination or whatever the word is for that. Actually, piggybacking on that though, I don't know if you've ever tried this. If you just discovered frozen bananas, you can grill a banana in its peel, and it's like a roasted banana pudding. Oh my god, it is
my
so
gosh.
good. It is so good.
Interesting.
Yeah, you just unpeel it and it's like soft. You can just little slice through it with a little spoon or
Since
Whoa.
since we're
It's
on the
so good.
topic of bananas, I'll give you a little fun fact.
Final banana season.
Final podcast 8
Um,
bananas.
So do you know how like banana flavored candy tastes like nothing like banana? That's actually because the banana flavored candy is flavored after like the original rendition of bananas before there was like this great banana genocide. And like a lot of the original bananas were destroyed. I forgot. I don't remember how. I could look it up for you sometime later. But the the bananas that we eat today are actually I think genetically modified, and that's why they taste different than like banana flavored candy.
They are super bananas.
Super bananas.
Also, banana genocide, new name of metal band.
That is literally the name of this podcast.
Banana
genocide.
genocide.
Banana genocide. Yeah.
What? I did not know about that.
Yeah, go
Banana
ahead.
genocide.
Carry on. I'll get you the verbatim information for you, but
Yeah.
it was a
It's
banana
all in this-
genocide.
It's all in this pamphlet.
This is another final fan question from @Vic Chao. He says, "What's up with your secret dream to be a magician at a kid birthday parties and also a children's book writer?"
um, I love magic. I just love the silly magic and like just the dumb things like, oh hey, which hand is it in? I mean, like yeah, just that sleight of hand is just so fun. So yes, if when if and when I retire, well, again, kids go away to college, whatever, and I officially hang it up and call it quits in the acting world. I'm just gonna be a backyard magician, just performing at kids' birthday parties and stuff like
In a
that.
Spider-Man suit.
In a Spider-Man suit, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of doing it for kids because like at a party, because it's like it doesn't matter even if you're a bad magician, whatever, it's a bunch of kids. So this isn't rocket science. So I would just love to do that. And then having two kids of my own, I really appreciate children's books now and how much they influenced me when I grew up, and getting to read some of the same books that I grew up with to my children is amazing. And there's a special place in my heart for Danny the Champion of the World, which is by Roald Dahl, the author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And my father passed away when I was young, and so I read that book growing up, and that book is about a kid's special relationship with his father, and his father just teaches him everything from how to fix things and how to explore and about the world around them and how to poach pheasants, which is a major part of the whole thing. And so I always just read that book, just wondering what it would be like to have a father to teach me these things. And so to get to read this book that influenced me when I grew up to my own son, it's just it's an amazing feeling, and it almost like fills a part of me that I didn't know was missing until I got to share these experiences with my son. And there's a part in near the beginning of the book where he says something like, my father was an amazing, where Danny says, my father was an amazing man, and a man who never ran out of stories. And when I read that, my son just looked up at me with big eyes and like just this closed mouth smile of, and just feeling like that's my daddy, and it
That's
was
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a very special thing to share. But yeah, so the thing is, I love voicing video games. I love voicing animation, but yeah, I'd like to see how I can possibly just start, narrating. I don't want to read. I don't want to narrate adult books. Whatever. There's a plenty of out there, but just to be able to read children's books online, and like Julia Donaldson, the author of like children's books called like The Gruffalo and Stickman and Room on the Groom. She's amazing because her rhymes are just so fun, and there's just wonderful lessons. So yes, one of these days, and actually yes, the part about narrating children's books, yeah, I that's something I can do on my own. So I will probably do that once I get time. I don't have, but when I do have time, I definitely want to do that because I get such joy out of these children's books.
So Vic Chao narrating 50 Shades of Grey audiobook, not coming.
There are much better people to narrate. Appreciate it. I just want to read about Stickman and Zog the Flying Dragon and stuff.
It's really cool when you posted this. By the way, first of all, thank you for sharing that story about you and your son reading that book. That's really cool story. Just because now that I'm a father and reading to my son who's 3 years old, and just getting his reaction from things, it's just a really cool feeling, and it's actually kind of inspired me to want to write a children's book. And I will probably tell you once we're off air, because I don't want anybody stealing my ideas, Vic. But but I have this
copyright.
idea for a children's book. I actually built this book, how to self-publish a children's book.
Oh, fantastic! Good for you.
Yeah. So when you posted that, I was kind of like, oh wow, that's really cool. We can talk about that. But anyways, so I watched the first episode of Seis Manos this week to get better acquainted with your recent work. Um, yeah, absolutely, and I found out that it's a fantastic anime. Like,
Yes, it is a fantastic anime.
when your character like gets in that first fist fight, and you're just kind of like sidestepping with your hands behind your back, I'm like, this is the coolest, man. And he's got so many inspirational and like motivational like Yoda-esque, what I mean, that Yoda-esque quotes that were really sticking with me. So thank you. I encourage everybody to go check out it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix anime, so check it out.
Yeah, thank you very much for checking it out. I have such pride in that because it is very, very different, and it takes a lot of the tropes of a martial arts anime and turns a lot of them on their heads. And let's see. Let's see. Anyway, as you well, Domingo, this pesky kid who wants to join the fighting force, and you know how things go with that. There's the pesky kid, and when I was reading the script, I was like, oh, this pesky kid wants to join the fighting team. I get it. He's going to be a pest. They're going to tell him to go away, and then at some point, the team's going to get tied up and locked in a room, and only Domingo's the only one who can like squeeze through a little sewer pipe to go and rescue the group, and then they're going to adopt him as one of their own. That doesn't happen in Seis Manos. So,
It's very unpredictable.
it's unpredictable. Yes, thank you. I take great pride in it. It's done by the folks at Powerhouse Animation, who are they're booming now. They're doing some amazing work with the He-Man animation directed by Kevin Smith, as well as Blood of Zeus, which is out right now and has already been renewed for a second season. They're doing amazing work. And yes, if you keep on watching, my character Chu has a brother, and his brother is not quite as good of a fellow as Chu is. So yes, please. So I do encourage your viewers to keep on watching, because there's some things that happen. So.
Yeah, and not to mention that it is well, to mention, I guess, is that it's got your like your mixed martial arts type anime that you're used to from, like, say, I don't know, Dragon Ball Z type thing. You know, you got that, but it blends it together with like Mexican culture, which
Yes.
Which is also, I mean, obviously, if you couldn't tell by the title, Six Hands, but yeah, so just that blend it works. It's unique. It's, you know what I mean, it's not like any other anime that you've really seen. So I also encourage the fans to go check that out.
Thank you. We're calling it Mexicanime. So
Mexicanime.
Mexicanime, that's awesome.
Yes.
That is fantastic.
That's really awesome. Mexicanime. So if you could work with anyone besides John Eric Bentley, because you've already done so, but if you could work with anybody, like any actor, maybe growing up you had an idol or somebody that that you're a big fan of now, if you could work with anybody, who would it be? And if it could be in a video game, what game would it be?
I will say I've gotten to work with, like, my dream person to work with, who is Stan Lee. So God rest his soul, of course. But I got to appear in a series of promotional commercials for for Spike TV. And one of them I got, so we got to do it with John Chris Falusi, who created Ren and Stimpy. Um, uh, and one of the people that I got to that I got to work with was Stan Lee. And it was just amazing to get to work with him. He you could tell his hearing was a little bit off, so you just spoke a little bit louder for him, and that was completely fine, no problem. But I got to tell him how much Peter Parker influenced my life, and how Spider-Man gave me hope. And that was the main thing. I said he gave me hope that there was something better for me. And I'm sure Stan Lee has heard this a million times, but it didn't matter, because he just sounded so appreciative to hear those words, and as if it was the first time he'd ever had anybody tell him that. So yeah, that was a huge honor to get to work with Stan Lee.
Wow. Yeah, that would be, and obviously with your story about your childhood, and how much Spider-Man meant to you, man, that's incredible that you got to meet basically the person who created the character who created you. You know what I mean? Type thing.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's
creative grandpa.
the creative grandfather.
Exactly.
Osby.
Yeah. So, Vic, you've had the opportunity to work on so many different projects, vastly different projects throughout your career. Is there a project that sticks out, either from a live action perspective or even from voice acting, that you enjoyed working on the most? And if so, do you have like a story or some insight about it you'd like to share?
I mean, I will say Final Fantasy VII Remake and Mortal Kombat X were two of the highlights that I ever got to be on. A little story about Mortal Kombat X is that you know the main character they had me voice was Kenshi Takahashi, which was awesome, and it was also very comfortable, because you know, they're just like, oh yeah, we actually like your regular voice. I'm like, well, do you want him to be a little bit, no, just your regular voice, you know, well, I can be, you know, a little more energetic. No, just your regular voice. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm just going to be myself. And it totally worked. You know, it's funny because I guess sometimes I feel like I need to be something different other than myself, but they're like, no, we actually like the way you speak. And it's like, oh, okay. And yeah, that worked. Goro, on the other hand, was not my regular voice. And so they just had me, you know, going down as low as I can possibly go, you know, and
It's incredible.
yeah.
I don't know, man. That just filled me up with so much joy right there. Thank you.
And so the thing is, you know, you do that, and then you have to do all the fight efforts as well, and everything. And I remember my throat was just destroyed for 3 or 4 days.
I can imagine.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Would do it again in a heartbeat.
Hopefully they will allow that, man. I was like, why is it in Mortal Kombat 11 both of your characters? Well, you had 4. But...
Yes, yeah, Sector and Triborg as well. So yes, I sure hope that happens. But yeah, you know, I've certainly done fight efforts for quite a few video games, but I will say that no fight efforts are quite like the Mortal Kombat fight efforts. I mean, there's just a laundry list of all the different kinds of pain that you are experiencing. and you do, like, you know, 6 different variations of getting hit with a board, you know, 5 variations of being thrown into the room, yeah.
Johnny is ripping your rib cage open.
Exactly. They're like, so now you have to try and struggle to breathe, but your windpipe has been ripped open, you know, and stuff like that. So.
Do they have like a specific soundboard for crotch shots in Mortal Kombat? especially for Goro, if you've seen the original movie.
They've got oh yes, I remember that scene that you're talking about.
Those are $500 sunglasses, asshole.
They've got fight efforts for pretty much anything you can possibly imagine in Mortal Kombat. They're very thorough.
How long do you spend in the booth doing that, or in just in just general, even for Sung? Like how was a typical workday?
Sung was you know, like the standard is 4 hours. So it's usually 4 hours a shot, you know, plus or minus, just depending on what's needed and stuff. But the fight efforts for Mortal Kombat, as well as Seis Manos, those are the only 2 where I can recall like just dripping with sweat after. I mean, I always do the physical things that they ask when I'm acting it, just to make it as realistic as possible. But those 2, I was just pouring with sweat. And then I just felt bad for anyone who was in the voiceover booth after me when I because that place just smelled like a gym locker room afterwards. I'm so sorry.
That's just getting in character.
It's
so
interesting.
Actually,
go ahead, Reed.
After you.
Well, so I used to watch Dragon Ball Z a lot when I was a kid, and later on in life, I found out, I don't remember what the voice actor for Goku's name is, but I had found out through one of my friends who was more into Dragon Ball Z than I was, that the voice actor who did Goku, I don't remember which Super Saiyan he was going into. It might have been the first or the second one, but he was screaming in the booth, and he was screaming so like hard because, you know, they wanted to portray that he was like, digging into a lot of energy. And he actually had to go to the hospital after the session because he like tore his vocal cords. But they still used that like soundbite because it was perfect. But that's how much effort he put into it. And I had so much respect for voice actors after hearing about stuff like that, because it's, you know, you're still acting and you're still doing an amazing job. You know, it's more than just a voice. Like, you're still, like you said, like you were dripping sweat, and that voice actor, like I don't remember which Super Saiyan it was, but he's like screaming and like putting all of his effort into this, and I just thought it was amazing. I had so much more respect for voice actors after hearing that. Like it's just so much more than just going into a booth, standing in front of a microphone and just talking. It's so much more than that, and I respect that a lot.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, we definitely do our best. We definitely work our hardest to deliver what needs to be done. Don't get me wrong though, it's not like being a firefighter and like actually like endangering our lives the way you guys do. So thank you, but yeah, I think people doing your kind of work is far more worthy of respect. But thank you for the kind words.
I appreciate that, but we get paid to eat and sleep a lot too. So
And that's the thing is, I'm sure I would imagine 95% of your time is not that big of a deal, but it's that 5% that where it really kicks in. And so thank you for the work that you guys do.
I
And
appreciate that.
what you do gets him by doing what he does. So, and
It's funny. Sorry, just to bring that, you mentioned that Stan Lee has a wonderful quote where he says, like, yeah, I used to feel bad because, other people were rocket scientists and doctors, and I wasn't doing anything like that. And then somebody pointed out, no, you're giving them the relief and from their jobs, because if they didn't have your work to help them relax and escape, they'd probably go off the deep end. So yeah, I guess we all have worth in our own way. So.
Yeah, not to mention inspire them to be firefighters and inspire. Yeah, so
that escapism is so important that even the U.S. military has an entire branch dedicated to it. The USO. It was especially during World War II and everything. It was literally just dedicated to entertaining the troops to take their mind off of what they were doing.
Exactly.
So it's what's the word, symbiotic. Speaking of venom,
hey,
sym-
symbiote.
yeah, we come full circle.
Full
Um,
circle.
we were talking about, we talk about Seis Manos, combat anime, Mexicanime. I love that.
Mexican.
Obviously, Mortal Kombat. Growing up, there's a little combat show of sorts that I was a huge fan of, obsessed with. Had the Nintendo game and everything, and it happens that you were on it. American Gladiators.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
How much of a fan were you of American Gladiators? The old one was amazing, and can you detail your experience there? Because I actually am aware of your episode.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I was yeah, no, I loved American Gladiators. And again, like, there's overcompensation because I was the weak kid up until high school. Like basically, I was I weighed 94 pounds going into high school. And thank goodness. My school had a gymnastics team where I suddenly discovered, oh, hey, here's something a small kid can be good at. And I became muscular after working really, really hard, and puberty hit finally at age 16 and stuff. So then I became muscular, and then I was at Stanford studying engineering, and they had I remember seeing an ad for tryouts for the American Gladiators live tour, and like there was the line stretched around the block at the Cow Palace, and all these physical feats of strength, like yeah, like 17 wide arm pull ups, all this crazy stuff, and then and yeah, I got on, and it was brutal. Holy crap! Um, I did well. I did well on the wall because that's just climbing, and so somebody who's smaller but agile can do well on that. I did really well on assault. That's where they fire the tennis balls while you do an obstacle course.
Yeah.
But freaking Powerball, I just got destroyed in Powerball.
Which one
Um,
was Powerball? I can't remember. I'm trying to
Powerball
remember.
is basically there's little baskets, and you just take a ball and you just try to dunk it into the little basket, and the gladiators try to stop you any way they
That's
can.
right.
Yeah,
And
you're like jumping
so,
from platforms and everything.
That's right.
and I remember I was in the lead going into Powerball, and I think that's what made them key in on me, because like yeah, like first Gemini Gemini just went and body slammed me into the ground. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna try a different tact. And then like I tried to juke and very unsuccessfully. And Tower was like 6'6", and like he like grabbed me under like in the fireman's carry type of thing, and literally threw me over his shoulder onto the ground and like slammed me onto the ground. And I remember the entire arena going, ooh. Oh, that was brutal. So yeah, and they had warned us. They're like, when you play Powerball, do not worry about hurting the gladiators. Believe me, the gladiators are not worried about hurting you. So that was totally true. Yeah, I got shut out in Powerball, which didn't help me there. And I remember I was bleeding from 14 different rug burns, carpet burns, pretty much all from Powerball afterwards. So love the show, hate Powerball.
That's
Awesome.
insane. That's so cool that you had that experience. Another one that you had, at least for my research, I was digging in and I saw you were a Chicago Bulls mascot.
Yeah. It was also part of the evolution of being a gymnast. I was a gymnast in high school. Walked onto the Stanford gymnastics team, and they had two national champions and one guy who went on to win the silver medal in Atlanta Olympics. So I was not needed in any way, shape, or form. Like unless there were I joined the team for 2 weeks, and I was just like, unless there's a huge bus accident where everybody breaks their legs all at once, I'm not needed. So I became a cheerleader at Stanford, which was a lot easier on your body than being a gymnast. And then like then I was an engineer developing medical devices, and then when I finally quit to become an actor, I saw that there was uh, um, an ad for crowd entertainers with Chicago Bulls, and this was during the Jordan era, which is amazing.
That's
And
awesome.
so I started out being one of the crowd entertainers who would slingshot T-shirts to the crowd and stuff like that, and I love that. But then what happened was the mascot double, who was a fantastic slam dunker. During one of the games, he landed on one of the balls, which was really unfortunate for him. But he tore all the ligaments in his ankle, and
Hmm.
so then like basically like I got the call, like I got promoted to the big league, so I got to be the Bulls mascot, and that remains the highlight of my acting career. I freaking love that, and it's still the perfect job for me because I love gymnastics. I love being a clown, but I'm also very introverted and shy, and I hate talking about myself. Like it's genuinely very hard for me to do this. And like it's hard. So anyway, but so what happens is when you put on a mask, like the anonymity of the mask is the most freeing thing in the world because
Hmm.
it no longer matters what you are, who you are, because you're just this character. And so you go out there and you dance. And if you're a great dancer, that's great. If you're a terrible dancer, like I am, that's great too,
That's great.
because as long as you're entertaining, that's all that matters. So yeah, there's nothing I love more than mascotting. And I've gotten to do it for like a Chick-fil-A commercial, a Citibank commercial, like several different commercials as well. Um, but yeah, being with the Bulls, and seeing Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen every day at work was
That's awesome.
just yeah,
Did you ever talk to him?
Yeah.
Did you ever get to talk to
honestly,
him?
honestly, I was too shy to.
Mm.
Again, being somebody introverted, I was too worried. Like my nightmare would be Michael Jordan misses a final shot, going into regulation. And he's like, well, yeah, I was all set to make that shot, but then the bull talked to me during warmups and I got distracted or something like that.
Mhm.
Or he said hi to me in the tunnel. So honestly, I never did. But that's why I actually have a special place in my heart for Steve Kerr, because Steve Kerr would actually say hi to you and talk to you and reach out to you on his own. Because, yeah, like I said, I would leave everybody alone because I just didn't want to possibly distract them. But Steve Kerr would just talk to you and say hi and see how you were doing and stuff like that. So it it makes me very happy and doesn't surprise me at all that he's such a great coach for the Golden State Warriors, because he's a great guy. He's very human, and I think part, not that I know for sure, but my guess is that part of what makes him a great coach is that he wasn't the greatest athlete on the court, so he had to find way. I mean, he's a very good athlete. Don't get me wrong, but he's not Scottie Pippen or Michael
Right,
Jordan.
surrounded by it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
so I think when you're not naturally the most talented there, you have to use your brain to figure out what else you can do besides rely purely on your athletic ability. So I think that I just say, I'm a big fan of Steve Kerr and all the success that he's had.
I
Yeah,
actually,
if you haven't watched the Netflix special that they did with
The Last
I don't
Dance.
know if it was Michael Jordan, is The Last
Yeah,
Dance.
Last
Thank
Dance,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really well done. Now that I know that you were the mascot.
I
know.
remember the documentary crew during that, because that was Jordan's last year. So
Mhm.
that so I haven't had a chance to watch it because that kicked in right during the pandemic, and of course
Mhm.
the daycares closed and stuff like that. So I haven't had time to watch it. I've had so little time. But yes. So that was when I was still one of the crowd entertainers. But you may be able to see me on the court. I won't be in costume, because that'd be the following year. But yeah, you may be able to see me on the court. I definitely remember seeing the documentary crew that whole season, and wondering, when it was going to come out and stuff like that. So again.
Drinking game.
See,
So
Vic.
yeah, so when I have time, I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the struggle with the the kids.
Oh my, yeah, I can't imagine what it's like for you. I mean, it's it's uh it's hard, for us. And the thing is, it's like, when I say that, I say that recognizing that I am so incredibly privileged, because I haven't worried about what my children are going to eat, or if I'm going to be able to get diapers or something like that. I haven't worried about that. I've been worrying about their psychological needs,
Yeah,
and,
Mhm.
same.
and stuff. But yeah. So when I say how hard it is, like, it's still coming from this incredible realm of privilege. But yeah, it's been tough. And I have it much better than so many people out there, and I'm very blessed for it. Blessed, and at the same time, it's been tiring.
It's been tiring
It's been
with
tiring.
with those insane eyes that I get all the. But so I'm just really really blessed that my wife takes care of the kids, and Osby as well. Like, just my wife takes care of the kids on Saturday, so I can have this podcast time, because she could tell that I was kind of losing my mind a little bit there. and she was
Yeah.
and she was like, I had a podcast before the pandemic hit and everything, and then our daughter was born this year, and everything just kind of was like, I had to put that on hold. And thank God my daughter was born healthy during a pandemic. So I'm very very blessed that you know everything went smoothly there. But it's been very difficult, because you can't really take the kids over to the nanas and let them play there. You can't go to the store and let them see all the Christmas decorations. And that kind of thing has been difficult. But like you said, it's always great to look at the plus side of things. It's always great to say, oh, you know what, there's food on the table. We may be in a very small apartment losing our minds, but you know at least we have a roof over our heads and stuff like that. So and nobody, thank God, nobody's gotten sick. So other than just the typical sick.
What
but yeah, nobody's gotten that virus. So um we're very blessed in that sense. Speaking of, like, putting on a mask and performing, I do want to throw this one over to Osby. Osby was a professional wrestler. for quite some time, and I have a
13
feeling.
years.
I was wondering when
Yeah,
that
I
was
have a
gonna
feeling
come
you
up.
can relate with that. Go ahead, Austin.
Man, I just kind of show this. This is one of my championships from over the years.
Oh my
But
god.
I got to be a sports entertainer for 13 years. Put on the tights, beat people up. It was a wonderful experience, and now I hurt every day because of it. But there's been a few times where I don the mask in a full body suit, and I do agree, it is absolutely freeing. You don't have to worry about them judging you because they know who you are. More so
Exactly.
the character that you're portraying. So
Yeah.
it's
You're putting on your personality.
yeah, it's incredible. And anybody that does mixed martial arts or contact sports or even getting body slammed in American Gladiators, I have incredible respect for, because having been slammed hundreds of times in the ring, I gravity sucks. And hitting the ground in any capacity, I respect for anybody who's willing to do that.
Gravity always wins.
Gravity always wins.
This is
Awesome.
true.
Good for you. Good for you, man. And so like how did you get into that? Were you a gymnast or a amateur wrestler or
No, the school that I went to didn't have, it was a small school. They didn't do like the Greco-Roman style wrestling in high school. But my buddies and I, we did backyard wrestling, and we were posting videos in what was 2005, 2006, around the birth of YouTube. A small wrestling company in West Tennessee caught wind of the videos and invited us to a tryout, and that turned into a very painful, almost full-time hobby. I was somehow balancing that and my video production career
wow.
hand in hand with that. So it is incredible. But now that I have a toddler, and I've got to wrestle on TV, got to wrestle on pay-per-view, got to wrestle all over the United States, large crowds, small crowds. Hung up the boots for some injury-related stuff. So now just focusing on my real job.
Now he
Oh,
just has
good
to
for
wrestle
you.
with his age.
I'm
Just
sorry,
have to wrestle with my age at this point.
I'm sorry about the chronic pain. That sucks, but good for you. That sounds like an amazing experience.
Oh, it's uh be, being the bad guy when you're not the bad guy.
Yes.
It's so much fun.
Like that.
It's
I love voicing bad guys because they make me feel like the tough guy that I am not in real life, you know.
right.
Yeah, I totally identify with that.
Yeah. And I do have a question that does bring up something that I was going to ask earlier. From all of your voice roles that you've done, if there was ever an opportunity to do one of them in a live action capacity, which one stands out to you that you would enjoy doing the most?
It immediately springs to mind is Goro because then I would have 4 freaking arms.
Right.
Let me see if I can think of any other one I mean, but the idea of getting to just be this muscle bound Hulk, and again because that's not who I am in regular personality, but
Mocap is an amazing thing, though.
it is. It is.
Yeah, that would
Um,
be awesome.
Yeah, I'm still gonna go with Goro. Although Daniel had asked me, I think before, like if you could do any voiceover role, what would it be? And I would say being part of Psychonauts because that was probably one of the
Oh,
Psychonauts,
Really?
or getting to be like the GLaDOS type of character in Fortnite,
yeah.
because like both of those are two of my favorite games of all time. Um,
Nice.
and like yeah, like the characters and the writing of well, both of those were just amazing. So
Mhm.
so yes, I would love to be part of Psychonauts. I think has the sequel come out yet? I know
No,
it's
not
I don't
yet,
think
but
so.
it's
Yeah.
I'm very excited for it. It's Tim Schafer's, working on a Double Fine, been acquired by Microsoft, so it'll be day and day with
oh, I
Game
didn't
Pass.
realize it was acquired by Microsoft. Oh, very cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good for them because now they have the funding to really just like to focus on it and make it really good. Xbox really needs a platformer, especially with Astrobot and Sackboy that just came out on PS5. I think that would be it's going to be a really big hit for Xbox, and that's really cool. I didn't know you worked on did you work on the first Psychonauts? Like, were
Oh
you
no,
part of
no,
that?
sorry.
Yeah, just
Those
Okay.
those were just like dream things that I would
Those would be dreams. Oh
dream
man, I
things.
hope Tim Schafer's watching this.
yeah.
I just wonder
At
what
Tim
that guy
Schafer.
must be like in real life. I just feel like he's just this mad genius, like.
Yeah, he's
I
a
would
fun one
love
to watch on
the Gladys idea
interviews.
though.
Oh,
The
I'm
Gladys
sure.
idea is amazing. I would love to hear
Yes.
Vic Chao say the cake isn't real. From is that Portal
The
1 or
cake is
2?
a lie.
Cake
Yeah,
is
the cake.
the
The
cake
cake is
is a lie.
Yeah.
But
You got that like that passive aggressive, like you do the bad guy in a good guy voice. Sure.
Right. And yeah, exactly. Passive aggressive, like GLaDOS's passive aggressiveness throughout was. Yeah, none of the lines are coming to mind right now, but yes, I just remember, that's okay.
Yeah, right.
like Hal from 2001 Space Odyssey. Like that would be such an awesome role for you. Like just kind of because you have like that calm demeanor, but you can kind of like put that like menace behind it a little bit.
That would be fun. That would be super fun.
I think my favorite GLaDOS line, or probably my favorite line in any video game, really, is when GLaDOS is like, "How are you doing? Because I'm a potato," and like there is just so much like discontent in her voice. Like like she doesn't actually care how you're doing. She just wanted to set herself up to say like, "I'm a potato, so anything you say to me, like my life is worse."
I think my favorite was Wheatley. I loved Wheatley.
Wheatley was great.
He's so funny. Oh man, oh good stuff. I know that there's 3 out of 4 of us that were big fans of this next one. I unfortunately will have to sit out on this one, but you guys want to talk about Grey's Anatomy? You guys were blowing up the chat when I said Vic was part of the Grey's Anatomy. So go ahead, guys.
Yeah, it's Vinny and Osby.
Yeah.
Oh,
So Grey's Anatomy was one of those shows where I was like, I loved House, and ever since I watched House, I was like into like medical dramas, and then somebody I was romantically involved with was like, "You have to watch Grey's Anatomy," and I was like, okay. And then I watched like the first season, and I didn't want to admit that I liked it because like I didn't want her to be right. And then I just kept watching the show, and the show just got like better. And and then finding out that we were going to be interviewing you, and then looked up some of your stuff, and I was just like, oh my god, that's why you looked so familiar, because season 15 I think it was in Grey's Anatomy.
Yes.
I was like, oh my god, this is like starstruck, and it's great, going back around to like how just my love for a video game, my love for Final Fantasy is allowing me to meet all of these like amazingly cool people that I just never would have met on a day-to-day basis. And it's just great. Your performance was amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you. What are the things that I enjoyed about that episode was that like basically my wife and I in that show, we just played really stupid parents who just decided to go riding motorcycles without a helmet. And so I get a huge head injury. And so what was great was like a ton of my scenes are just me being unconscious. so like a bunch of my scenes, I'm just lying in the gurney, like getting rolled around. I'm lying in the bed, getting rolled around. I'm lying in the van, getting rolled around. Really easy stuff to do. So thank you. I hope my portrayal of an unconscious person came across.
All right, guys. Idea for a sketch. Can we just get a compilation of Vic being rolled around unconscious, and just have and the music in the background is just "They See Me Rolling."
Oh no.
All right, guys, we're gonna move on to the Mad Libs portion of this. This is how we're gonna kind of close it out.
So for these Mad Libs, and John did it, and we've done it with Night Sky Prince, popular content creator. And they tried to kind of stay on topic. Like for John, he tried to make like these words like very related to.
Yeah, he
Final
said like
Fantasy.
planet and stuff. I'm like, you're just kind of replacing the word with a word.
Yeah, you can just be as off the wall. Like we needed a noun, and I think I said Rosie O'Donnell. So really, just go nuts. Give us whatever comes to mind, whatever crazy things.
Yes, exactly.
And we'll just have you read it off.
The first impulse is the right impulse.
There you go. All right. So I would like instead of saying a noun, I'm going to be specific about a thing.
A thing.
Mm-hmm.
Ostrich.
Perfect. We're already on a good start. All right. Need an adjective.
Adjective. Quizzical.
Quizzical. These are good words. Place.
Place. I'm fond of Jupiter. I'm fond of Jupiter, but lately I've been more fond of Saturn. So let's go with Saturn.
We go Saturn. My son would say that's the one with the rings on the body. An adjective.
An adjective. Idiosyncratic. I don't know why these.
Oh my god.
I don't know.
New record for syllables.
These are the words that are coming in my head.
You might see these and be and they might be spelled wrong. Never mind. Okay. Thank you Google Docs for the spell check there. Okay. A thing.
A thing. Because I have a son. For my son, Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yes.
Okay. I gotta type this one out, guys. All right, there we go. A verb.
Trimming, or to trim, or trim.
Okay, trim.
Isn't it so funny how hard it is to think of like a word when you're like forced to think of a word? You know, so many verbs, but you're like, damn.
Right. I don't know, man. Idiosyncratical. I don't even know what he said.
Idiosyncratic.
I'm like, I would need a thesaurus for that. A thing.
A thing.
Another thing.
Rubber band.
All right. Another thing.
Another thing.
That's great. I just read it.
Gravel.
And don't worry.
If you need a singular. Oh, I guess gravel is probably both singular and plural. Okay. All right. Anyway.
And don't worry for the spelling, Danny. We forgive you for your idiosyncrasies.
Thanks, Reed. I also don't know what the word means, but I'm just kidding. A body part.
A body part. We'll go with the left ear.
The left ear.
Very specific.
Yeah, left ear.
We need an adverb.
An adverb.
Yeah. Those typically end in ly.
Ferociously.
Okay. All right. And a verb to end it.
A verb. Baking, or to bake, or bake.
Okay. To bake. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and you will read this off in Sung's voice. Once again, this is the scene where Sung explains to Elmira and Aerith who the ancients are. so
I actually forgot about. I forgot what this was. What the subject was. So
Full circle, sneaky full circle.
All right, let me bring this up. Share screen. Where we go? Here we go. And boom, share. Okay, what are you guys seeing right now?
Double click. I
Nothing.
see Daniel Hofflick has started screen sharing. Double click to enter full screen mode. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Is this one it? Okay.
Good.
All right.
Good.
So, all right, so you will be reading this off in Sung's voice. And scene.
You're an ostrich of the ancients. They were the quizzical stewards of Saturn, whose idiosyncratic knowledge and the Tyrannosaurus Rex shall trim us to the promised land. Some believe the promised land to be a rubber band, others a gravel of sorts. But we take the words of the scripture at left ear value and believe it to be quite real, which is why Shinra would like furiously much for Aerith to bake us.
One of those happy cigarettes.
Oh yeah, you
Oh,
missed
no.
that one, Vic.
You are an ostrich of the ancients.
That's amazing.
Aerith is
That
a
was great.
flightless bird.
You are a flightless.
You are a flightless bird.
You are a flightless bird of Rosie O'Donnell.
That's hilarious. I'm going to play that for my son. He's going to have no clue what's going on.
Actually, this is the summary of Final Fantasy VII. this is the official synopsis of Final Fantasy VII.
That's how you sell units right there. That's the game synopsis.
Absolute units.
All right, Vic, if you still have a little bit of time, we're gonna finish it out. I did say we would do some final fan questions. You don't have to spend too much time on them, but answer them as much as long or short as
like
you can.
4 or 5, 3 or 4, something like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of them here. We've already done the ones from your biggest fan, Vic Chao. He those are great. He's like I have a final fan question. All right, this one is from MJ Gallagher, good friend of the show here. We had him on the show. He's the author of Final Fantasy VII novels. He just released the Norse myths that inspired Final Fantasy VII. So, really cool book. Almost like a lore master. So, anyways, he says, I thoroughly enjoyed Vic Chao's interview with Alex Main a couple months back. I would like to know what changes, if any, Vic made to Sung's voice while he performed the flashback scene at Aerith's and Almira's home. So did you have to go younger with the voice, or did you kind of keep it the same?
Yes, yeah. In fact, so saying present day is largely just my regular voice. But because that's a flashback scene a couple decades earlier when, of course, Aerith is younger, we definitely went higher with the voice because presumably his voice hadn't aged into his mature, older status. And also because we were trying to show the feelings that he has for Aerith. So yes, there was definitely a care that we took to try and speak not just in a higher register, but also just to infuse his delivery with his caring for this young child. And so
It never gets old when you go sung on us, man.
It's soft song to hard song.
And I really enjoyed that, and plus, I can, it allows me to just, speak with how my child is when I want to try explain something important to him, and I want to be patient with him and stuff. So yes, that is what we were trying for with that flashback scene.
Awesome. This one is owned by the Turks. What was your first impression of Sung, and was it easy for you to voice him?
And as we mentioned, it was actually difficult because I couldn't figure out if he was a good guy or a bad guy. There were lines where he was clearly like a bad guy, but then he clearly had, affection and feelings for other people, for Aerith. And so it wasn't until I finally was just like, hey, is he a good guy or a bad guy or ambiguous? And they said ambiguous. And I was like, okay, this all makes sense. And it allowed me to just think about just the dichotomy that we all have. All of us are good people in some respects. We can be we can be straightforward to the point. This needs to be done now. And we can also be gentle and caring, even at this exact same time. So yes, it was difficult until the key word for me was ambiguous, and that allowed me to use the dichotomy that we all have of being kind of good, kind of not so good, all at the same time.
Very good. This one's coming from at the new Shinra. Oh wait, okay. Well, this one, he says, "What do you hope to bring to Sung's character?" Obviously, we can't get into that. We can't get into that, but you could maybe kind of build off of that one. So you could say, what was it that you wanted to bring to Sung? Like when you were voicing him, was there something that you wanted to convey to the listeners or to the gamers?
And I think it sort of ties in again. Of course, I will not say anything about what will happen, but I do think his relationship with Aerith is so important both for the storyline as well as for his character, because without that, he is simply just a straightforward person who needs to get this done, and he's going to make it happen when it needs to happen. Um, so I love his relationship with Aerith because it humanizes him. It shows yeah, the human element that he has. So I would love to see that developed more and progress with his fondness and caring for Aerith.
Awesome. And you don't have to comment on this. This is just something that I personally would like to see. In the original Final Fantasy VII, Sung actually goes on to ask Elena on a dinner date, and I would like to see kind of that little relationship explored as well. So we go on to at Brief Fuzz. For the sake of fun, how much bilingualism? Oh my god, bilingualism would you bring to Sung's character if given the choice? So this, I guess, this would kind of build on the world building of Final Fantasy VII. Maybe adding bilingual.
Yeah, 我喜欢说中文. I do like to speak Mandarin when it comes into play. And so yes, I think that I think it's a really nice element to characters when they can show their different language abilities and show part of them. And it's very interesting because his character name is spelled Tseng, and then it's pronounced in the game Song.
Mhm.
And then interestingly, somebody had messaged me in Chinese, and the character, the written Chinese character for Song's name is Zeng
Mm.
and Zeng. And what's kind of funny is like that's actually my Middle Chinese name. And I didn't realize it because I hadn't actually seen what Song's name was in Chinese until this person messaged me with it, and I was like, oh, that's hilarious. That's actually like my Middle Chinese name. So
You were literally born to play that character.
That's so cool. Yeah, yeah. Oh man, really
Oh
cool.
man, we should have had the Aerith scene with Elmira. We should have had him read that in Mandarin.
Oh wow. I mean, we can if you're willing to do so.
that would take me a little bit of time.
Okay. I was
Yeah, no
All right.
worries. Just thinking in hindsight.
Yeah. Building off of that, I mean, just because of there's this not a rumor, or if I don't even know if it's been confirmed yet or anything like that, so you don't have to comment on it. But there is a thing going on that maybe Sung was of Wu Tai descent. And during the Wu Tai Wars and stuff, that put him in an awkward position. It's kind of like floating around on the internet and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And if they did like a bilingualism for that, and then maybe when you go to Wu Tai, they're speaking a different language, and I think that'd be kind of cool. Throw in like a little subtle world building there.
That would be very cool.
So when you get to okay, this one is at Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy says,
You get it. Frank.
what was the process? This is a Mortal Kombat X question. What was the process of voicing two characters in a game? He actually voiced four, Goro and Kenshi. Did you do both characters on the same day, or did they split up the sessions? Also, when you voiced Goro, was that your natural low pitch voice, or was it edited in during development?
Yes, thank goodness we did them in different days because Goro is a throat ripper.
Nice
so-
throat ripper.
So yes, Kenshi's just my regular voice. And Kenshi's just my regular voice with Goro and all the way down to here. And they still use their technical wizardry to bring him even lower. And what's really fun is they put that through the low pass filter in real time. So I'm hearing it in my earphones as I'm talking, except for through the low pass filter. You're hearing that through your earphones. And while I'm doing Goro, I'm just feeling like I am the greatest voiceover artist in history. Listen to how it sounds, and
Yes.
and realistically, I know that that's actually not, that's the technical wizardry. But boy, do you feel like an amazing voiceover actor when you can speak, and then Goro is speaking, you hear Goro speaking in your ears.
It's like all the self hype you need.
Exactly.
Hyping up yourself.
I gotta ask.
I was so jazzed coming out of that. Oh, and then one wonderful benefit about playing Goro was that for Ready Player One, they asked me to come back to
Yes.
voice Goro's lines when he makes that surprise cameo appearance.
Yep.
And that was so cool because I got to, I can now check off my list. Worked on a Steven Spielberg film,
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
that was super
Yeah.
cool. And interestingly, with that, like, it was so secret, they wouldn't let me see any scenes, not even initial rendering or anything like that. They just let me hear a temp track, and my job was just to match that in Goro's cadence, match the cadence and delivery as much as possible in Goro's voice. And so yeah, like, I'm just working blind. I'm just like, you can't go around doing things like that, so.
Oh, Vic.
That's incredible.
I'd like to ask a request here because I just love hearing Goro's voice, and I don't mean to rip the throat, but would you read that Mad Libs in Goro's voice?
Oh God, that would kill it, man. That's like a full paragraph.
Let's do like we'll do a couple of sentences.
Okay, just a couple sentences here. Hold on, let me bring it.
That's
you could even
amazing.
do hold on, let me get to it. You could even do Sung's actual quote. Maybe even.
Oh yeah, that might actually work better with the actual.
There you
quote.
go. If you want.
You're a descendant of the ancients. They were the original stewards of the planet, whose boundless knowledge and wisdom shall guide us to the promised land. Some believe the promised land to be a myth, others an allegory of sorts. But we take the words of the scripture at face value and believe it to be quite real. Which is why Shinra would like very much for Aerith to help us.
Yes.
Yo,
That's incredible.
That is highlight
highlight of the show. Oh,
Oh man, we need
Also,
Thank you.
Danny, I'm gonna be your English tutor for the next week.
thanks,
Thanks for
man.
having me do that.
This is
That's actually fun to combine characters. Never
Oh
done.
my god, that was so cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that was
awesome.
awesome. Jesus
now-
Christ,
now-
like
now
the
you need a
hypest
cough drop.
promo.
Thank you
he's
so
gonna-
much for that.
Yeah, he's
Thank
gonna
you,
be whispering with his family the rest of the day, like, why all these kids?
I had to do it. I said, let's do one line. I ended up doing the whole thing.
Good. No, I was on a roll, and like, yeah, actually, I'm coming off of an intense VO session, which is why normally I can do. Yeah. Anyway, I'm coming off of a pretty intense VO session, so that's why my voice is not quite as hearty as it normally would be. So yeah.
It's pretty solid. What's so funny
yeah.
about that? It's like the voice, like the way, because my whole thing used to be I used to do like impressions and accents and stuff like that. But what's funny is like the way Goro comes across. It's like a 7-foot tall 4-armed golem from Lord of the Rings. Like I would just like Goro saying the precious, like
Branches.
yeah, exactly. It's so great.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
Vic,
Oh
you
my
are
God.
the man. We
You
appreciate
truly are the
everything.
man, sir.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Vic, we have absolutely had a great time with you being on the show. We hope that you also had a great time, and that I know you said that it's kind of hard to talk about yourself. I hope that we made you feel comfortable and just having a great time on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. You guys are the men. Had a great time. And I do love the Final Fantasy fans. So please, please do follow me on Twitter at Vic Chao at Vic Chao VICCHAO. Would love to hear from you. As well as on Instagram, I'm Vic Chao 1, the number 1. So at VICCHAO number 1. So actually, now that's VICCHAO1 on Instagram or on Facebook. Vic Chao actor or actor Vic Chao. Anyway, you can find me. Would love to hear from you guys. And also when you guys follow me and reach out to me, it encourages me to talk more, which I don't do as much because again, it feels I don't know, to me it feels a little braggy, which it's not. I know it's not braggy, but it feels uncomfortable for me. So when people, reach out and encourage me to do that, it encourages me to do it more. So thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And once again, just thank you for sharing all of your stories. You have a lot a lot of great stories, and it's just so awesome. I'm glad that you agreed to be on the show. And hey, if you don't ever want to talk about yourself, if you just want to come on the show and just talk,
Talk about bananas, banana
we'll talk about
genocide.
bananas. Sure.
I'm gonna try grilling a banana. Looking forward to that. So.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I honestly like you really you'll thank me if there's one thing like ever you're gonna do that. Be like Reed, and like that's the one thing you'll remember my name for.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, it's
Final Banana C7 remake.
yeah, Final
Bananas.
I was trying to think of that.
On that note. Thank you so much, Vic. And yeah, this has been Final Podcast 8. We'll see you next week. Remember, Audrey's going to be on the show. Going to be another fun one for you. Thank you, Vic, for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank
All
you,
right, guys.
All right,
Safe game.
Man.
We're out.